Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unique Peace on this wonderful Sunday. It is time change here in the States, so it's been a crazy morning. I apologize for starting a little late. I am Janice. I am the quiet healer here on Long Island, Reiki master teacher and intuitive medium. Sorry, and today I'm being joined by Aretha. So, if as many of you know, I work at Pocono Raceway during their race events for NASCAR. And I met Aretha there, and she is now part of my Pocono family. So I'm very excited to have her on. So join me as we welcome Aretha. Hi.
Hi. Hi.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. It's been a morning, but I'm good.
It's been a morning for sure. So, what I love about you is that you always have this bubbly personality, and we know how the media can get hungry and
Yeah,
cranky, and we don't have what we need right away. You deal with difficult personalities very well.
thank you.
You are also a multi-passionate entrepreneur.
I am. I have a lot going on.
You have a lot going on. So talk about that. Mm.
So I own and operate my own call center. So I do own my own call center. I do have a couple of young ladies that want to work for me. So I'm in the process of kind of onboarding them and getting them kind of acclimated to the platform. I also started with my friends a nonprofit organization, and
I remember this.
we throw marketing events for minority-owned small businesses. COVID hit a lot of people hard. They lost jobs. They, didn't know how they were going to pay bills, and people started they were kind of I guess they say necessity is the mother of invention, and people started getting inventive. They were baking cakes and they were cooking and they were making things out of resin by watching YouTube videos. They taught themselves how to do these things and they wanted to sell it. I mean, I have people that, do tie dye, things like that, and they had no way of letting anyone know that they were selling this except for their social media feeds, and that's generally like their friends and family and things like that.
Right.
So
You need to get out to the masses. Absolutely.
right, so what we do, or what rather I do, I am the executive coordinator, and I like to tell people, basically I throw parties for a living. So I organize events, I get the venues together, I organize all of our vendors and make sure that it's a place that they're comfortable. And I basically throw a party. So we throw events, we advertise, we ask them to advertise on their platforms, have your friends and family come out, have them support you. And then we reach out to the rest of the community and we
Yeah.
throw these pop-ups where people can come and sell what they make and show their face and cook, and we have food trucks and things like that so people can get to know the people in their neighborhood, because a lot of times all of this is happening in your neighborhood and you don't even know it. Most people, they get in the car, they go to work, they come home, that's
Yeah.
it, that's
Yeah.
their bubble.
Yes.
So
So
yeah.
the all important bubble, but getting out of it is where you really grow. I agree.
Right.
And now your nonprofit is clearly currently in the tri-state area.
Right. So we one of our founders actually moved to Texas. So she is working on to expand. Another one of our members does live in the Bronx, and he actually owns his own coquito business. So he sells coquito all year round. He makes like seven or eight different flavors now. So, he's also a leg in New York. So we do throw events there and we collaborate with him and throw events, in New York. And now we're working on Jersey. So,
Okay.
you know, I'm originally from Jersey. So, we're working on getting venues and spaces there as well.
Beautiful. So that's a lot. In in addition, you work at a radiology office.
I do. I just recently started working in a radiology office about a month ago. And on top of that, I do have my own business, my own event coordinating business that I am getting started now. And I'm working with the racetrack on that aspect. So what I basically
Beautiful.
do is I procure food trucks for them because, when they're open and there's not an event, there's still staff there
Staff.
that needs
Yep.
to eat. So rather than open a cafeteria, excuse me, they wanted to make it a little more fun. So now my job is to be kind of the middleman because I have access to so many food trucks. I get food trucks for them and, for a small finder's fee. I organize the food trucks coming to the racetrack now.
Beautiful.
Another side business for me
That's a whole other side, yeah, but that's also fun. With everything going on, you've got to be stressed out at times.
all the time. Just
So
all the time.
so how do you find peace and remain, centered with everything that you've got going on?
Honestly, it's the little things. Like there are little things that I do to give myself peace. Like I don't know if you've noticed, but there is a Christmas tree
Yeah.
and stockings up. Yeah. Yeah. My
Yeah, that happens.
my tree stays up all year round because there are some days I walk in the house and I'm just mentally, physically, I'm just emotionally exhausted. And Christmas is my favorite holiday. So I do keep my Christmas tree up. And not only is my Christmas tree up, there are gifts under my tree. I keep wrapped empty boxes so that my tree looks
Okay.
full all year round. And I know some people are like, oh, do you change it for the holidays? Like, put hearts on it for Valentine's. Nope, absolutely not. Christmas. Just I
It's your holiday.
just Christmas is my holiday. So
That's
I keep
awesome.
I keep my Christmas tree up all the time. I am a widow, so there are some days where I'm just sad for no reason. I mean, just and
Yeah,
there are days when I can feel him in the house and it just it makes
totally.
me a little sad too, So
Mhm.
I try to keep things around me that make me happy. And I'm a mother. My daughter is amazing.
She's so fun.
She
She's
she's
fun.
hilarious. She is a licensed cosmetologist. So she went to school for that. She's very skilled and very good at what she does. She's a color specialist.
Mhm.
And her head is a rainbow. You've seen her. Like her hair
Yes,
is
she came in with, my 2 favorite colors are purple and green, and they're in
mhm.
all of my everything, and she came in with the purple and green hair. I'm like, "Awesome. I gotta go talk to
Yeah.
you."
Right now her hair is teal with purple highlights in it. So
Yes. Awesome.
yeah. So she's my best friend and I'm hers. And after her dad passed, it was, she and I got a lot closer, teenage girls and their moms. We have, yeah,
Teenage
we,
girls are hard.
yes,
If you try and circle back and remember, "Oh, I wasn't that bad," we lying.
yeah, yeah, it was bad.
It's bad.
Yeah, but I mean, now we only have each other. So,
That's
and I
awesome.
I love our relationship. I love that I'm close to her and she does. She brings me so much joy and peace. Like last year, we flew out to Vegas for a concert. We spent a week in Vegas to go see BTS. BTS is her favorite group. She's very heavy into Korean culture, and Korean music. She's
Nice.
actually teaching herself Korean right now. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, she's amazing. So, we went to Vegas. Just me and her went to Vegas for a week, had a great time. And, she grounds me. And it's hard sometimes because we're both very fiery, both Leos. My birthday is August 4th, and I had her 6 days after my 19th birthday, so she's the 10th. So
I'm a
so
Leo
yeah, we
too,
bump
but I'm more
heads
subdued.
sometimes. And that's her. She's the more subdued Leo, and I'm the opposite. I am the fiery side of Leo. Like I am. And she laughs because all of like my moons, all of the houses, all fire. Like it's all fire. For me, I think I have one earth sign in my background, but I'm all fire. So like she's that person that'll be like, think about that, ma. Like, really? You want to say that? Like, is she like
She'd be like,
she'll edit
"Pass."
my text message. Right, exactly. She'll edit my text messages sometimes when I'm in like a text feud with someone. She's like, Ma, that sounds really mean. So yeah, like she definitely brings my peace. And that was kind of my husband's job before he passed. He and I were complete opposites. I was the fiery, I have such a short temper, but he was the, peacemaker of the family. So now she's kind of taken over that role. But, she is still a Leo. So, after a certain amount of time, she'll hit that wall and she'll be like, all right, let's do it.
Yep. There's that point, it's like, "Really? I've been nice to now."
Right, right. Like, let's go. Let's just go. So
Right. I can totally agree with her on that. So and you bring that when I see that at the track. I
Mhm.
do, where that balance is. She kind of like she doesn't do it in an obvious way. She's kinda like, "Ma, go check this," or, "What
Right.
are you doing with that?" And because she picks up on that subtlety.
She does. She can feel when I'm getting overwhelmed, and she'll be like, "You know what? I'm gonna go do this, and that way you can focus on that. Because if I have something to focus on, I'm fine. When I start to get overwhelmed, when there's too many things to do, then she does take a lot of that off my plate. So yeah, she does, and she can see it. We work really well together to the point where we don't. Sometimes we don't even have to speak to see what needs to be done, and we just do it. So yeah, we've been at the track for. I've been at the track for 9 years. This will be my 10th year at the track. She's been there, I wanna say 7?
Yeah, that's when we
Yeah,
met. That's when
yeah,
we met, so it's been
7 years.
about 7 years,
Yep,
and, it's we are a family,
we are.
especially in the media center, we are a family, we don't just and we're like a close-knit, so we immediately know, "You're
Right,
new. What do you do?"
right, yeah, like
We don't mean to interrogate you, but we don't
right,
know you.
right.
Help us out.
Yeah, and we definitely and I try not to be nasty, like, it's like,
No,
"And
I
you
don't
are"
think no, we were just kinda like, you're different. Who are
Right,
you?
right.
I
And
wanna
I
know
do,
about you."
I love our Pocono family, like, we exchange recipes and we feed each other, we hide food for each other, like, I hide food for you guys all the time and be like, "Well, what do you like?" Like, "Oh, you like that muffin? Okay, I got you."
Right. Pam will bring in her famous cake.
Yes, and I do have the recipe for that cake now. I have not made it yet, and she's gonna ask me again, she's like, "Did you make it?" "Nope, mm-mm.
You
It's a
might
lot
wanna
of
do
work,
that
man."
before July.
Right? It's a lot of work. I mean, I've looked at that recipe, it's a lot of work.
Oh, good lord. I've only had a piece.
It tastes like a lot of work.
It does, but it's
That
worth
cake
it. It's
it
worth the
is.
work.
It is.
So, you've got the call center,
Mhm.
and so you're kind of it sounds like managing it remotely in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
and if you're onboarding new people and you've got people working for you and they're kinda scattered, how do you kinda bring peace to that situation? 'Cause call centers are tough.
they are.
They're
So,
tough.
yeah, with the call centers, I tend to treat the people on the phone the same way I would treat people in person. So, I I try to have empathy. I understand, generally when you're calling because there's a problem. Absolutely. That's why I'm here to help you with your problem. I don't tolerate disrespect. I have some empathy and I sympathize with you being upset. And I'll let you be upset for a little while and I'll let you go ahead and yell and talk and do whatever you have to do to, feel better and get your story out. And then after that, you need to tone it down. I have had to disconnect from people and hang up and let them know, listen, I am not in the business of being talked down to. You called me for help. I didn't call you. Like,
Yes.
especially dealing with like I deal with a couple of different clients. I have TurboTax is one of my clients, and Carnival Cruise Line is another one of my clients. And again, people call and they're upset, and I understand you're upset. Dealing with taxes is stressful. I deal with it all year round. And it's not even my taxes that I deal with. I have an accountant. Like so
I y ex and I for the first time ever have had accountant, and it's been a blessing. I'm not
yes,
sitting
it
there ripping
is.
my hair out. And Michael has joined us, and he says, "Hello, ladies. You have
Hello,
love the
Michael.
energy."
Yeah, you just have
Welcome.
to have that
Mhm.
boundary where it's like, you know, I'm going to help you. As best I can. But again, you have to be firm. And dealing with I work remotely. I work from home. And the ladies that are going to be working for me, they are also working remotely from their home. So I try to be a support system. Everyone has my cell phone number. If you're on a call, and the platform that I work on also has kind of helps set up in the platform. So there are always people within the company. So if you're taking calls for TurboTax, there are always people from TurboTax that are there to help answer your questions. But I'm always there as well, so they can text me and be like, "Hey, I got this caller that is screaming at me. What do I do?" And I walk them through it. Like, ask them calmly to just calm down and explain their problem. Ask them 3 times. When you hit that 3rd time, explain to them. You understand that they are going through, some type of traumatic experience, but you do not have to take the abusive language, and you are going to disconnect the call. And then disconnect the call. I tell them, make notes so that we can see it later. Notate that account. Person was, agitated and, would not calm down. Bottom line, that you have to have boundaries, and that's all it is. With people, you have to have boundaries. People, upset people and sick people are the same, because even in dealing at the radiology office, people will call and they need to make appointments for tests, and they're upset. They just left their doctor's office. They may have found a lump or a spot somewhere, or something like that, and they need to come in for further testing, and they're upset. And then they get angry when they can't come in when they want to come in. It's like, I understand that you're upset, but we have 22 locations and we service hundreds of thousands of people. Like, I get it. You're upset, you're hurt, you're sick, you don't feel well. There are, 150,000 other people that we are helping that feel the same way you feel. We
Right,
have to get everybody in. So it's like,
right.
it's like, we try to balance that out. And sometimes, people are upset. They get angry. They hang up. Okay.
And sometimes it's escalated by the
Hmm.
doctor, depending
It
on the
is.
severity, and I get that, and I, as someone who tries to figure out the problem, me personally, tries to figure
Hmm.
out the problem before I've called. So by the time I've called, I'm already tried, like before I
Right.
called tech support, did I restart my computer? Is my OS operating crap? Did I update something? Did I, you
Right.
know, troubleshoot all the questions I'm used to getting now
Right.
before I call. And I try to be very conscious of the other person on the other line because, like, when I call the bank, because I've had to call the bank several times, I'm like, what the heck is going on? I try to be very cognizant because there have probably been 10 people before me that
Right.
have been yelling and screaming and nasty and so forth. And my
Right.
question is, can you explain to me what this is? And can you give me a phone number to call the the third party?
Right.
Or, how do I get this corrected? And I recently had an issue with my son's insurance card, not mine, because they
Hmm.
misspelled his name. But then when they
Okay.
misspelled his name, they were supposed to reset his account because he's of a
Right.
certain age. He's still a minor, but
Okay.
he's at that, "Oh, your parents don't have to know anything." I'm like,
Right.
My son is my son knows TikTok. He doesn't know what the hell's going on here. It's
Right.
like, "Oh, we have a doctor's appointment?
Exactly.
Okay." So,
Yeah.
I was on the phone for almost 2 hours with 2 different people trying to help me, and then they put it to a ticket.
Right.
But they were both very nervous because they probably got yelled at before me. Someone got yelled at before me or they've experienced that, and I try not
Right.
to be that
That
person.
person. Yeah. Same. Working for a call center, it has definitely made me aware of how I talk to other people. When I need help, it makes me very aware of that. It's like, all right, they're only doing their job, and it's like, and then they'll ask me questions. It's like, yeah, I already did that. Yeah, I did that. I tried that, but then I have to remember. You do the same thing. Like, you have to ask
Yeah.
all of the
Okay.
questions because
Oh,
they could have missed something. So
right.
yeah, I
Or you'll
definitely
tell
get it. Oh, did I lose you? Oh, Janice, I think I lost you. Is it you or me? Let's see. Yep, I think I definitely lost you. There you are.
Was saying, no, no, no.
Hi.
Hi.
There we go. Sorry about that. Technical
No,
difficulties.
I
Yay.
get it. I was just saying, I think I lost you. It's like, oh, there you are. You
Yeah.
weren't down long.
No, no, it was fine. It was fine, and now I have a co-host.
Mine is asleep on her tree. I'm just gonna leave her there. She's good there.
Yes, leave her there. Leave her there, absolutely. So we were talking about, call centers. And there are new questions. Sometimes people will ask me something that I don't know.
Right.
or that I haven't tried because of their systems have changed.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay, that's good information. Probably this piece of email you sent me that I didn't read.
And yeah, and that definitely happens. And it's happened to me too. Where it'll be like, oh yeah, we sent you an email. And be like, oh, definitely happens.
Yes.
And I try,
And
like I said, I try to be understanding.
so, and all of that chaos, which happens a lot in call centers,
Hmm.
and we've experienced both ends of it. And how do you de-escalate that? I mean, I know you're like, you have the three strike rule, but
Right.
you're going through that too, and you're trying to remain calm. So how do you de-escalate? Like,
I try to relate. So, as they're telling me, I'll tell them, oh yeah, that happened to me once, or, I'll try to get them to understand that I am not some bot that's sitting in an office. I'm a real person and I understand what you're going through because it's happened to me, and I'm going to help you get through it because I understand how you feel.
understand.
And that usually makes them feel better, and they calm down when they feel like you're relating to them, and not just had lots dealing with the taxes, and even at the radiology center, like I have a lot of, when I'm making appointments for people, their significant others had just passed away and they don't know what to do. And my husband always handled the taxes and now he's gone and I don't know what to do. And it's like, you know what, I understand. And I was speaking
In
with
there?
one woman. I was on the phone with her for like 2 hours, and she's like, "You don't get it. You don't understand how hard this is." I said, "Man, my husband passed away 4 years ago." And she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And then immediately her tone changed. The whole conversation changed. She's like, "Okay." She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She's like, "Well, what do I do?" She's like, "How do I do this?" And then she was more receptive to listening to me because I was trying to help her, and I had the answer to her problem, but she wasn't ready to hear it yet. She's telling me how I didn't know and I didn't understand. So once I related to her and
Yeah.
she is like, "Oh, okay, you do understand." Of course, yeah, I understand. So then I was able to help her, and it went much smoother. It was much easier. So yeah, when people get really upset, I just try to relate to them, and I will say I have kind of bent the truth a little bit. And they're like, "Oh yeah, this has happened." It's like, "Oh yeah, that's happened to me too. This is what we do. This is how we fix it." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And they're fine. They just need to know someone understands them. That's
Understand.
really all it is. It feels their
Yeah.
pain.
That leads to an interesting question. And do you find that when you receive calls and you are in a case to be needing related, to be relatable,
Hmm.
you find that it's usually something that you've actually experienced? Yeah, I know you've bent the truth a little bit, but um, like sometimes when I do readings or I have people in a small circle, they all have similar problems. Like they're all having a problem with their boss. They're all having a problem with their child. They're all having a similar
Hmm.
issue. You find that on certain
Hmm.
days you have back-to-back calls. You're like, what the heck? Because they're all about similar things.
Yes, that has happened to me quite a few times. I one day I was working TurboTax, and I got three widows in a row who didn't know what to do because their husbands handled everything. And I mean in a row, back to back to back. And then I got a woman who was, she was her mother's primary caregiver, which my mom was my grandmother's primary caregiver before my grandma passed. And then my mom is a breast cancer survivor, and she was going through all of that same time. And I was my mom's primary. Like, my dad is
Oh,
still,
wow.
my mom
Total
and dad are still
situation.
together. Yeah, but I'm her only child, so that was my job, and it brought my mom a lot, my mom and I a lot closer. So I had a woman right after the three widows who was trying to do things for her. Her mom had just passed, and she was trying to do the taxes and clear everything up, and that hit me kind of hard because it kind of, you know what I mean? Like I kind of saw myself in that role, and it scared me a little. And she and I and over when I that we talked, we cried, we prayed together. It was such a phone call, and she ended my shift. Like I ended up kind of going over the time I had allotted myself because I make my own schedule. The time I allotted myself to work, and I didn't have a problem going over it for her. But it was crazy because I ended the shift and I would have like thinking wise was like that was a really bad shift. But at the end of the shift, I felt amazing. Like after having laughed and cried and prayed with this woman, I felt so light and like my heart felt so happy because then I'm thinking I could do this. Like if I had to, when I have to, because at some point I know that I am going to have to do this, I knew I could do it. If I could talk her through it, I know I can do it. So it was, I
It
do
gave you
have those
something.
days. Right. I have those days. And there are some days when every single call is almost the same. Everybody has the same problem. And, once I figure out how to fix that problem, those days are the best. Cause it's like, all right, well, just do this, this, and this. All right, you're good. And everyone's happy because
And then you
they're
have
like,
another call with the exact same problem. I just did this.
yep. But people are excited because I fixed their problem within minutes. And they're like, oh my God, you're amazing. I was like, yeah, thanks. Yeah. So you feel really accomplished and smart because it's like, okay, I can fix this. But yeah,
And it does. It
yeah.
does. So in everyday life, you're
Mhm.
walking through life and you've got your daughter, you've got your friends, your mom. Someone comes up to you, one of your friends comes to you and says, Aretha, I'm really having a really hard time finding some peace. What do you reach into your toolbox and kind of say, try this? What are your tools?
That's actually happened. This happens a lot with one of my friends. She has a lot going on in her life, and it's very toxic. She and I, the first thing we do is we breathe. If I'm able to get to her, like, cause she lives not too far, so if I'm able to get to her, if I'm off that day, I'll go to the house. We sit and we breathe. We have a cup of tea. We talk. We cry. I let her cry first, and then we talk about it, and then we'll cry together. But I always let her get it out first. Like it's one of those things where I know how it feels, and I know sometimes you just need someone to let you cry, not to try to fix it, not to try to make everything better, just to let you cry. So, and I like I said, she is my best friend in the world, and we have those moments. And yeah, I'll just sit and I'm there. I'll sit there with her and I rub her back, or if we're on the phone, I just sit there and I tell her to breathe through it because when you cry too hard, you can't breathe. So yeah, and I talk
Yep.
her through it. Yeah, and I
Yep.
talk her through it, and we breathe and we cry and we talk, and then for me, there's something so freeing about a good cry. We're taught
Very
to
cathartic.
kind of keep things in. Yeah, and so you can't keep everything in, and there are days I cry for what seems like no reason, but deep down it's just so many things that are happening and that I've pushed down, the stress, and I've just kept pushing it down, and at some point it just kind of erupts, and sometimes it erupts when everything seems like it's okay, and it's like, well, why am I crying? It's like because I needed it. I needed to cry.
Yep.
you know
Yep.
so yeah, like
I've
for
been
me,
in.
peace comes from sometimes just a really good cry and just kind of letting things out. And I'm at the point now where I'm older, and I'm in my 40s, and I'm trying to allow myself to feel what I need to feel. If I'm upset in the moment, I'm upset. If people around me don't, want me to be upset, I don't care. If I'm upset, I'm upset. I'm going to tell you I'm upset. I'm not holding it in. I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm not doing things to make other people feel comfortable anymore. Like if I'm not happy and I'm not comfortable, then you don't get to be comfortable around me because it makes you feel good. No, I'm not happy. You're gonna know I'm not happy.
It goes back
That's
to
it.
being a Leo.
Right. So if you're uncomfortable, fix it. Like just find a way to fix it.
Right, or be there. There may
Exactly.
be a reason. It may not have anything to do with them or the situation. Something
Right.
just happened, and it's like,
Right.
okay, why are you crying? And I don't know is a
I don't know.
genuine answer.
It really is. It really is. And I had to learn that. Like I had to learn that sometimes you don't need a reason. You just, you feel what you feel.
Right. And that release, with each release, you not only feel better, but then you kind of recognize in the future, it's like, oh, I've been here before.
Right.
And either
Right.
it's not that bad, or okay, now I have a different set of tools to work with to work through this.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think I'm getting there. I'm not gonna say I'm there yet, but I'm getting there because like I said, I'm definitely at the point where I'm allowing myself to feel more. I used to be super embarrassed about certain feelings, and it's like, when you're around people, just push it
Right,
in. Just keep that in, deal with it later. And now it's just like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like I'm just not.
right. And there's tactful ways to deal with difficult public situations. It's not
Right. I I've been in situations where I've been in public and it's been hard where it's like, do I cry? Do I not cry? And I found that there are times when I've held that in when I've been in like a public situation, and then there have been times when I just couldn't, even though I wanted to, and I tried and I couldn't. And I find that people you can tell a lot about certain people that you're around because there are going to be people who are like, "Oh, she's crying," like, mm-mm, and they go the other way. And then there's that group of like people who may not even know you very well or know you at all, and they're
they're
coming to you.
right
They're like,
there.
"Are you okay? What's going on?" And they're right there, and it's like, you don't have to tell me everything, but are you okay? Like, do you just need to do this? And I've been in that situation where a perfect stranger was like, "You don't have to tell me what's wrong. Just are you okay? Like physically, are you hurting?" I'm like, "No, I'm not hurting." Okay. And they just stood there with me and let me cry. And it's just like, they didn't make it uncomfortable or awkward. And it almost felt like they knew me. And I'm guessing like people that were around that didn't know us or walking past, they felt like, oh, she's comforting her friend, because that's what it looked like and that's what it felt like.
Right. Yeah.
Perfect stranger. Didn't know the woman from a can of paint. So yeah, I find that people will people when you need them to.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it does say a lot about the people around you, because
Hmm.
sometimes there's like the people who are close to you, you're like, they're like, oh yeah, no, she's crying, she's just got to go to the, she should go into the bathroom or another room because they don't
Right.
want to see it. And the people you thought were your friends who are like,
Right.
you're in a subtle way, you're embarrassing me.
Exactly. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, go over there. Go
It's
in.
like,
Go
why
in
is
the
this
other room.
happening now?
Right.
And then you have complete strangers. You're like, you go in the room where all the coats are and you're crying quietly. It's like, in there, are you okay? And sitting in,
Mm.
sometimes you make a new friend.
Yeah. You, you do. You definitely do.
So yeah, I can definitely say crying is cathartic and breathing is helpful.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. So
When
many
I'm
ways.
angry, I breathe. Like I just, so, and I have to tell myself to do it. Like, all right, just stop and breathe. Like, just those two, like just breathe. And it makes me focus on something other than what I'm upset about. And then that allows me to think a little more clearly because I'm not
Right.
so involved in whatever I'm upset about. So yeah, for me, it's breathing, just breathing and crying.
Breathing and crying. Hey, sometimes those bring some peace because then you're like, I feel better.
Right. Yeah, and I always do afterwards. I always feel better afterwards. And eventually I do figure out my problem because I took a minute and I found a little bit of peace and it's like, all right, because the world is chaos and you have to find your own little piece and whatever it takes. For some people it's having a nice cup of tea and blocking out the world. I will turn my phone off, like not off, but I turn like my ringer off. I keep my phone on because I'm a mother and I'm a daughter. So you know I,
Similar concerns over here. So yeah, I
right,
can't just
yeah. Now I'll turn the ringer off where I can see it and it's like, no, I'm not talking to that person.
you're not calling, it's not that important.
Right, right. So, Yeah, sometimes it's the little things that you need to do to just create that little bubble around yourself where it's like, I just need this time and I need this space for me. Mm,
Yes, the space is important too. I
Yes.
totally agree.
Yes.
Um, it's like the power of me time is underrated in the world of busy.
It is. People see it as being selfish. It's not. I tell people all the time, it's just like when you're on an airplane and they tell you to put your oxygen on before you put your child's on. Because if you can't breathe, you can't help someone else. Like it's
Yeah.
it's simple. It's very simple. If you can't take care of you, you can't take care of someone else. So you need to take care of you.
And me personally, when my son was much younger and we'd be on a plane, I look at her like, "You're nuts. I would have to
Right.
do my child first." It's
Right.
just your parental instinct.
Mhm.
But you to your point and to everyone's point, because it took a couple years for me to, like, resonate
To
with
get
that.
it
It's like,
right.
okay, before I had a kid, I would put it on, and then I'll have the stranger sitting next to me.
Mhm.
And then it's like
Right.
my short circuit and switch.
Right.
It did parenthood has had that effect on me. But to the same point, it's like, yeah, okay, I have to take care of me. That whole you
Mhm.
can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. Exactly. And I feel like, as women especially, we forget that. We have so many roles in this world and we forget that, we're people. And just
People
like,
do. Mhm.
yeah, we put so much into taking care of other people because, oh, they need it. They need to be taken care of. Oh, they need this. They need me to cook. They need to eat. Yeah, so do you.
So do
Like I've
you.
yeah, I've gone like a whole entire day and it's like, oh, at the end of the day, I feel horrible. And it's like, wait a minute. I didn't eat today. It's like, yeah, that's probably why. Yeah, my body's like, hey, stupid, you got to feed me too. Like you
Yeah.
cooked dinner, you did. You made sure your child ate. Did you feed yourself? I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, me.
Right, and on the same note, by taking care of yourself, you're teaching others to take not only take care of themselves, but it's like, "What would you do if I wasn't here?
Exactly,
What would
exactly.
you do if I wasn't here?" I mean, it's like my son he's 16 now, and he's a great kid,
Hmm.
but it's like I paid for him to take cooking classes because for 3 reasons. I know my patience level with sharp objects and my child. I know my patience level with trying to teach him a new skill
Right,
and know that that wasn't gonna happen, and I know that in trying to teach him, I would have taken over.
right. And he still
So,
would not have learned anything.
he wouldn't have learned anything. So,
Right,
it was money well spent because he's got a lot of friends that don't know how to do that. It's like they can
right.
barely use the microwave. So, I feel that he may think it was useless, but he knows skills others don't.
Exactly. And same with my daughter. She grew up in a cooking household. My parents own a soul food restaurant and a grocery store. So I grew up there. So, and so did she, partially. My husband was a chef. We had a catering company before he passed. We were always cooking in the house. So my daughter, we would cook together like as family. We would all get in the kitchen together and we would cook. We would give her little things to do, but she would do a lot of watching. Like she would sit and watch us. And now, and she's 24, and in her friend circle, she she likes the fact
Should you want a good cook?
she's the only, yeah, like they did Friendsgiving. It was it was eye opening to say the least when they did Friendsgiving because she ended up bringing the majority of the food. One of her friends took care of the turkey. So yeah, they didn't end up eating turkey that day. It was, it was still frozen when she was cooking it.
Oh,
Another,
yeah.
yeah. My daughter was like, "Oh, there, I'm in charge of the macaroni and cheese."
It seems like she should have been the one in charge
I
of
was
the
like,
turkey.
"So, cheese." I need you to make macaroni and cheese. So she watched me, and she's done it before, but she's like, I want it to be like perfect. So I made the macaroni and cheese for her, and she made everything else. She seasoned everything well, and everything that she brought was gone. Like they ate all of it because there was no turkey. But her other friends, they came by the house here, like, because my house apparently is where everybody likes to hang out. And her friend was like, "Oh, I'm gonna make cornbread," and I'm like, "Okay." I was making cornbread for another household, so I made my cornbread, came out fine. So she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna make cornbread," and I was like, "Okay." So
It's not easy to
she
make.
she no, she made something. Um, we're not sure what it was, but
Mm,
she said it was good. She was the only one that ate it, but she made something, and my daughter was like, "Okay, that's not cornbread, but okay." So,
right.
you know,
Cornbread is not easy to make. Here's how I
it's
make cornbread. I go get the Jiffy mix because I know it's hard to make. I
so
follow directions on a box.
now here's a fun fact. I use Jiffy as well, but I use Jiffy as a base, and I'll add to it. So,
Ah,
that's where, like, you just gotta have fun with stuff. Like, sometimes I'll add corn, like actual corn, to the
actual
cornbread.
corn, I've done that.
Yep. I put honey in mine. I'll
I
add
love cornbread. That's the
yeah,
best. Honey and
yeah.
biscuits too, just saying.
Oh, yes. Yes, some buttermilk biscuits and honey. Oh. And it's Sunday, so today is my meal prep day. Like, I made my daughter wanted lasagna last night, so I made skillet lasagna because, I was just got off work and I was lazy. So I mean, it's all the flavors of lasagna. Tastes like lasagna. It's in a skillet. Like, I'm not baking that. I'm not layering anything. I'm not
Yeah,
doing all
okay.
that. But, like, Sundays are meal prep days, and that's another thing that brings me peace is cooking. I will on Sunday, because it's always been a thing with my grandmother, she always cooked big Sunday dinners. I will cook a huge meal on Sunday, and my daughter will look at me like I have seven heads because she's like, "Who is going to eat this?" I don't know. I don't care. I'm just gonna cook it. And it just made me feel better to cook it. And I'll eat off it, like, for I can eat off it for like 4 days. Like, I'll eat off it through most of the week. But that's and I can be upset about nine different things going on in my life and in the world. And none of it matters when I'm cooking. None of it exists when I'm cooking. It's just, it brings me joy. Like, on New Year's Day, I cook a big meal, and I mean a big meal. It takes me 2 days to cook this meal, season and cook everything. And that was because that was what my grandmother did. We always did New Year's dinner at our house. The whole family would come to our house, and we would fellowship, and we would celebrate making it through another year and talk about and look forward to the new year that we had just entered. And that has always been my whole life, that has been a family tradition. And I don't really honor all traditions, but that particular tradition is very special to me and very important to me. And even if my family doesn't come over, my daughter will tell you, I still cook that meal. Every New Year's, I still cook a huge meal. And now her friends have gotten to the point where it's like, "Oh, your mom's cooking New Year's dinner?" And they'll come over and sit with
They're
me.
like, "Sure."
Yep. So, this New Year's that just passed, my dining room table was full of her friends.
And it's
And,
full of love.
yeah, it was. It was, and, they were so grateful. And they were like, "This is an amazing meal. I can't believe you cooked this. Thank you so much for cooking this for us." And yeah, they were very grateful. And it was a lot of love. And we just sat around and talked and played games and, ate until we were too full to move.
That's fair.
And that makes me happy.
Honestly,
Like,
I
that brings me
gone
peace.
good. Oh, I love that. I love that. So, I and on that note, I know you have to cook, it's Sunday, and it's, almost 10 o'clock in the morning, and if you're gonna start again,
Yeah.
because I know how long it's like my ex-husband, he's
Mm.
Italian, it's the Sunday sauce. You
The
gotta start it
sauce, right?
now to have it ready by 5 o'clock.
Right. Right.
And people will look at you funny, it's like, no, just you start it now.
Yeah.
You plug in, you put it in
It
the crock pot, you put it on the stove, you start it now.
it'll
It's
make
not
sense
gonna
when
be
you taste
ready.
it. Yep. It'll make
Yeah,
sense when you taste it.
exactly.
Because if you've ever
You'll
tasted
taste the
sauce that
love.
wasn't ready, it's not good stuff.
No, no, it's not good stuff. So I want to say thank you to Aretha
Not a
for joining
problem.
us today, and
Thank
we're
you for
gonna
having me.
yes, so we're gonna put you in the green screen for 1 second, and I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. May it be loving and peaceful.